Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on the third episode of the Pave It Forward podcast. My name is Phil Metzger, and with me, as always, is Kevin Gray, and we are here to help leaders in the paving industry who are looking to run more efficiently, meet their ideal customer, and improve the lives of those around them through meaningful work. Kevin, how are we doing this morning?
Doing good, man. Doing really good. Fighting through this illness, man. This COVID crap is no joke. Kind of blasted our whole family about a month ago, and I think everybody's on the mend. I've been, 4 or 5 weeks with it now, and just plugging away, trying to take care of myself, trying to get some rest. But overall, I'm good, man. Ready to give the listeners some of what they're wanting this morning.
Yeah, it's certainly been exciting. Even starting to get the feedback. We're only 2 episodes into this thing, and we clearly are having some impact, and that feels great because I know that's what we set out to do, and we put a lot of work and thought into this, and it really is just excited, even more invigorating than I even thought I could be going into this, even on the 3rd episode. So I hear you. Did you have a decent holiday and New Year's?
Yeah, man, it was good. A lot of time with the family, which was much needed. We go. Luckily, we do get a 4 to 8 week little break here through the winter time, where weather doesn't allow us to do much. But much needed time with the family. It was good to really spend some time with them and slow down. I actually turned my phone off, like literally turned it off, put it in a drawer for about 7 days there. So that was weird, but
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was pretty good, much needed. So it was great. How about you, man?
Yeah, same sentiment. I live in Colorado, as you know, but travel back to Kentucky to see family. So I got a good 2.5 week period there. I actually planned on doing some work, and I feel like I do that a lot on holidays, and it's just tough for me to slow down. And then, of course, when I come back to the work, I feel like I have myself prepared, and then it just feels hectic as can be, no matter what you do. But it was a great holiday. I'm so excited about the new year, and so just ready to keep it going.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, man. A lot of good things happening.
That's right. And we'll definitely be talking about that some more over these next few episodes. Specifically, we have a ton of really exciting information for us. But I quickly want to get this out of the way, and I'll only give this introduction for one more podcast, and that is to tell you, the listeners, that this show will be a weekly podcast that we are looking to release on Wednesdays or Thursdays, and it is now on all major platforms, I am happy to say. So subscribe where you prefer to watch or listen, and place your comments on the episode that correlates to where your question lies on either Instagram or our YouTube accounts. You can find us on Instagram at Pave It, or @ Pave It Forward, and our YouTube channel is Pave It Forward if you want to see our lovely faces. I want to give a quick shout out to Scott Spano. He had mentioned on our last episode about costs, that we should go more into costs, or it was actually about operations. And Scott, we will definitely be going deeper into all of this. It was actually very hard to even narrow it down to 5 questions covering the episode of operations because it's so large, but we will absolutely be getting into the topics and the specifics, and especially cost, because I'm personally interested in not only seeing how it works for most companies, but seeing how it works for different companies around the country. I think that's going to be an interesting talking point going forward as we start to get these reactions, what other people have to say about the paving conditions and the paving costs, and just how things run a little bit differently. And I also want to give a shout out to Seal Coat Kid for letting us know that you like the long form content. We, as same point, we really can't do this podcast in 15 or 20 minutes. We thought about breaking it down just topic by topic and doing a short little blurb on things, but the conversation is what really needs to happen here. So we really appreciate your feedback.
So, Buddy Warren down in Western Kentucky, man, chiming in. So that's good stuff. Yeah, it's talking about the feed. Scott Spano called me after episode 2 and said, as great as all that was that we covered in episode 2, he said you really need to dive into helping these contractors, whether they're new or seasoned, experienced contractor, really diving in to the financial side of it, to help better understand, true costs, not just cost, not just the cost you see on invoices you receive from your vendors or suppliers or whatever, but really understanding cost of doing business, almost what every man hour ends up costing you. So I think we did the operations mentorship program a couple years back with TCS, and I think it will be or would be a disservice to our listeners if we didn't probably offer that in some capacity on this podcast. And we, when we did that, that was an 8-week program. There was about about an hour and a half, 8-topic program we cover in that operations mentorship program. And I think that's probably what we need to do for listeners is eventually, obviously things are pretty broad now as we're just getting this thing going, and we're, trying to introduce what we're doing. And it's been kind of a broad stroke for now, but there's no doubt that we're really going to dive into that stuff in the very near future. So
Sure.
that was great feedback.
Yeah. Please keep that feedback coming. If there's anything you want to hear specifically, we'll be happy to put it on our list. And what we're going to try to do is when we have something like costs, I'm sure we could do an episode on the hidden costs, on man hours, on equipment, all kinds of different things. But we're going to try to separate those out a little bit, just so we don't double back on material. But please feel free to send us your ideas. This episode, along with the next 2 episodes, are going to be just a little bit different in that way, the same way that we cover the 10,000-foot view. First, we did operations. We covered things like minimum capital, crew needed to start a paving or seal coat company, and the key takeaways for hiring for the field, and even a few tips for incoming leads. This episode, we'll be talking about marketing, and we will feature culture and its role when running an asphalt paving company as our last introductory episode. After that, we will be diving deeper into specific topics from each of those categories. So again, thanks for the feedback, and we look forward to addressing everyone's needs that we can possibly get to in a timely manner. Yeah. So today is my wheelhouse, and talk about trying to get everything down into only 3 to 5 points. That could have been my thought for the week, or my thought that won't stop was just trying to pick the questions to address here. But when talking about marketing, I thought we would go ahead and just define it. This is from Oxford. Marketing: it is the action or business of promoting and selling products or services, including market research and advertising. I thought we would start today with market research. And there's a lot personally for me that goes into it, with my kind of strategy on how I can look to help most marketing. I have to really see that the person in that company that they represent has a space in the market, and that it even makes sense. So when we talk about market research, Kevin, you started working with ADC in 2009, correct?
Yep.
So you had also been in the business world prior to that. Had you ever thought about marketing much before working at ADC Paving? And do you kind of remember your first thoughts about like market research and marketing as far as it pertains to ADC Paving?
Man, and I graduated college in 2003, and so I did commercial insurance for Wells Fargo right out of college for almost 3 years, and then I was the executive director of the Kentuckiana Masonry Institute, which was a trade association for basically the brick and block industry here in Kentucky and Southern Indiana. Promoting their products and services to general contractors and builders, architects, engineers, things of that nature. And I really didn't. And when I came in 2009 to start kind of getting my arms around this business with my wife's aunt, marketing wasn't even really a word we used. I guess it wasn't even something we did. It was, I guess it was advertising. It was basically just, it was yellow pages at that point. Like we had a, I don't know, quarter to half page, ad in the yellow pages, as did the other 72 asphalt and paving companies here in Louisville and in Kentucky.
Sure.
We did, I think we had, done some like Angie's List, and Better Business Bureau was always, was one that, but we thought like as long as we're in those, if we're in the phone book, if we're in the yellow pages, if we've got an A+ with the BBB, then that's about the best you can do. Like that was kind of our marketing strategy, if you will. So no, I mean, we never really, and especially in the early years, I mean, we never really explored anything other than that. It was basically, how much can we afford? How much can we spend? How big can our yellow pages ad be? Can we buy a full page this year? And that was it, literally. So,
gotcha.
Very little.
Yeah. So tell me about kind of the process. I know when you had brought me on, you had said quite candidly in our last episode that you just really wanted to make videos that made you look cool. However, when it comes to brand, you have always felt strongly about your ADC logo being consistent and clean.
Yes.
What can you tell me about the evolution of the ADC brand and why the ADC brand is special to you, and why representing that properly is special to you?
Well, it's I think what makes it special to me is, I mean, it's ADC, for those of you who don't know, is the company, as it had always been, was Asphalt Driveways Company. So that was the name of the business when my wife's grandfather established the company back in 1959. It was Asphalt Driveways Company, and it was the name it operated under even, I think it was 2012 or 13 or so that we changed it to ADC Paving, with ADC, which is obviously stands for Asphalt Driveways Company. We didn't want to lose that piece of the history. It's a 60-year-old plus name here in the community, but we really felt like it was taken away because as we were evolving into more of a commercial, our commercial capabilities and capacities, we thought that the Asphalt Driveways Company name was kind of restricting us. It was telling people that we only do driveways. So we wanted to change that. And I hired someone whenever we made this change in 2012, 13, whatever it was. I had a marketing company that I had used in my former job with Kentucky Animation Institute that they rebranded that logo and business cards, letterhead, stuff like that. So they created the the A with the circle around it, and it was supposed to represent a roller drum, and then the mat, see it coming off of it.
Oh yeah.
Underneath. So that's supposed to be the pavement coming underneath the roller. So they kind of created that A, and then early on, everything, like every other construction company in town and across the country, they've got white trucks. And that's typically because that's what's in stock at their dealership. I mean, you think of a work truck, when GM, Chevrolet, Ford, whatever, mass producing these work trucks, they're painting them white. And it's like, we need to stand out. We need to be different than everyone else. So it's like, I've always been, I don't know, black is just kind of my color. Like, whatever, we can dive into that in some other episode as well. Get into the Johnny Cash persona, if you will. But I was like, man, we need to stand out. And the orange that we had in our logo and our brand really pops on black. And it was like, man, nobody in the construction in the right mind says, let's have black trucks and equipment, because they're hard to keep clean. They're hard to keep looking good. It was like, I want to look different than everybody else. I want to stand out. I want to differentiate ourselves. I want to separate ourselves from the competition. When they see us coming down the road or pulling up to their job or whatever, ADC Paving is here.
Sure.
And then we've gotten feedback over the years that, man, you guys, you really stand out, because we're the only people that don't have white trucks. Every other contractor in the city's got a white truck. So that was kind of the evolution of the logo and brand. And it's we're super proud of it. It means a lot to not only myself, but everybody here in our organization. So
sure.
That's how that all came about. And
I remember when I guess it was about 4 years ago, when we were really just starting to talk, that was the one thing that was, you didn't even have to say it was non-negotiable. I could tell in the tone of your voice, you did not want to mess with that logo. And I think one of the reasons I chose to include this topic in this just introduction episode is because that's where marketing really starts. Like if you can't even put your logo on a business card and be proud to hand it. So anyways, that's a little bit of the history on the ADC brand, but I wanted to actually find out where, if you could describe your paving market and then where ADC Paving actually kind of lies in the mix in your local market, Kevin.
Of our local market, historically for 55, 60 years before we took over, I mean, it was, run of the mill, kind of normal size, right in there with all the people that did, driveways in Louisville. Now, you've obviously, there's always, 2 or 3, us included, with a couple other local competitors that had a little bit, better reputation than everyone else. We weren't, just say it. I mean, anybody that's in this industry knows what I'm talking about. We weren't in the gypsy category, but we probably weren't much, above that either. So I mean, you kind of got your driveway guys, and then you get into your small commercial, medium-sized commercial, paving contractors, and then you've got your large paving contractors that do, state and federal work, that own their own plants that are paving streets, roads, highways, interstates, doing all that big kind of stuff. And really here in the last 5 years or so, we've really turned the corner to where I would say we're even a notch above, some of the, mid-level paving contractors that are kind of in that small to medium commercial space. I'd say we're butting right up there against the large paving contractors. Honestly, aside from doing state and federal work, we have the capacities, capabilities, equipment, manpower, you name it, to be able to, and we compete with the big boys, if you will, on most of our projects now. We still do residential work, even though that's changed a little bit on what kind of residential work we entertain and want to explore. But we are, aside from the guys locally that own their own plants and are mostly involved with state, public work, we are probably the largest private only contractor in Louisville, and if not in the state and Southern Indiana. So it's been a pretty big evolution.
Yes, and I definitely want to get into a bit about kind of the process with going from residential to commercial. But since we're kind of setting the baseline here in these first couple episodes, I guess we'll call it bottom to top, just because of, how much capital and manpower the top takes. But, you've got kind of your filling and patching, from what I understand. Then you can kind of get into the natural evolution is driveway work, and then maybe into a bit of commercial, and then kind of the big time commercial. And then kind of above that is like the main highway work and road work. Is that kind of where we're at?
Yeah, okay. Pretty fair.
So with ADC, you're kind of right below that level. You don't own an asphalt plant, so as you said, you're kind of that bigger private company. And to give you a little bit of context, the listener, a little bit of context on the Louisville market, they are the 16th biggest market or city in the country. Now, ADC is now expanding much beyond the Louisville metro area into Kentucky and into Southern Indiana, but that's kind of the size of and demographics, I guess, of the area that we're kind of talking about here. Advertising is something I wanted to kind of address, especially since it was in the definition of marketing. But we have a specific story about how we handled COVID and ADC's evolution. At one point, you were even talking about dropping residential. But when it comes to advertising, as you mentioned, there was the yellow pages, there's flyers, inserts, newspapers, coffee newsletters, Google ads, Facebook ads, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok ads, Home Advisor House, Angie's List, and the list goes on and on and on. Today, we're going to rule out anything where we don't have hard data, meaning an abundance of reliable data. So that takes care of all the paper materials and even yard signs. There is absolutely no doubt that yard signs do a lot for paving companies. We can tell by some of the stats that we took in from last year, like it's huge. And and of course, yeah, I'm sure you have a story or two. Yeah.
If you do good work.
Yeah. Yeah. If you do bad work, I'm sure it's
if you do bad work, you probably should put up the yard sign.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest, transparent. I mean, not although it may look like it on social or whatever, not every job we do is perfect or home runs. I mean, there actually been a couple jobs in the last 5 years or so. I said, let's not put a yard sign up there because it's, you just don't want that kind of, and it probably was not that bad of a job, but it was to me, it was to us. Like, let's not say we did that one,
Yeah, you have a standard of artistry, you know what I mean? Like you're getting to the point where it's not about just even grade, the grade is obviously something that you all have down and take care of, but beyond that, even just something, looking perfect. So yeah, I understand that standard of yours.
Yep.
So we are also going to rule out Home Advisor, House, Angie's List, et cetera, because they have proven to me to either be too labor intensive on the follow-up for many people or frustrating for the user and contractor on the other end. We can definitely get into maybe an episode somewhere down the road where we pick apart like 5 to 7 different ones and see the opportunity. But yeah. So we're going to choose to speak about Facebook today because it's the platform with the most homeowners between the ages of 40 and 65. So that's really has just proven to be a kind of a great starting point for anyone looking to maybe start throwing a little bit of advertising dollars in. Chances are, if you're just trying to get into or have been in the residential space in asphalt paving, this is probably where you're going to want to start. So I just wanted to quickly note 3 comments within the Facebook advertising. You can start extremely inexpensive, even with $5 to $20. And I know this is actually how you started messing around, Kev. You right before you had brought me on, you knew that you wanted to grow the ADC brand, and you knew that you wanted to try to also gain some additional residential customers. So my second point is that boosting can be effective as well. Don't be afraid to put a few dollars in because you will get some responses. You just have to do a few basic things to make sure that the customer can go through the process and actually contact you. But boosting can be effective. But if you or someone in your company can learn Facebook Ads Manager, it is absolutely worth it. You need to learn the stats so you can gauge the effectiveness there. Basically, with Boost, it's just kind of taking a handful of darts and throwing it at the board. And you're not really exactly sure which dart you threw. You're not exactly sure why it worked, but you can get some responses. When you use Ads Manager, you can customize the way that the prospective client sees it, as well as the way that it kind of comes through on your end. You can tell exactly what happened, and you can repeat the process with more accuracy in the future. Real quick, there is also a business manager in Facebook. Don't worry about that. It's large and complex, and it's really kind of for more businesses and complex campaigns. But if you have someone that can deal with charts and data pretty well in your office, this could take as little as a week or two and maybe $20 to run your first ad and start to get some responses. We'll cover content and later episodes in depth because content and marketing and culture all really kind of roll into how you should take on operations. You really want all those things to be present in your company and really have it show through operations. But we will get to that badass ADC content and how we do it in more episodes and how you can do it too. So now that I'm off my Facebook advertising rant, thankfully, let's get to getting some commercial clients. And Kevin, when it seems like the big question is when people are seeking out commercial clients, especially in the beginning, when you don't necessarily have the reputation yet or the relationships, the kind of big question is, who are the people you are trying to get in front of, and what is the best way to interrupt their day? And I know that sounds a little strange, the best way to interrupt their day, but you want to be polite about it. You don't want to be forceful to where they get a bad taste in their mouth. But Kevin, I wanted to bring you in here just to speak about what you've learned about growing a company into the commercial space. You had mentioned before that your first six-figure job was for a local media station, and it wasn't necessarily the most successful. As the leader of ADC Paving, how did you first approach commercial clients, and what are the contributing factors to growth in the commercial realm, in your opinion?
I mean, well, I mean, a lot of it just starts with a lot of hard work and diligent effort on until you really start establishing, which we've done now, and it's taken 4, 5, 6 years to really solidify your name and reputation as a reputable, dependable, reliable, professional contractor in the commercial space. And you finally get word of mouth working for you, and um, people, referrals. Basically got people that you can say, hey, if you have any questions about our customer, service, experience, product, any of that. I mean, here's all these, here's previous projects we've done. Here's content. You call these guys, check us out, whatever. But until you get to that point, basically it's kind of like the yard sign works for people in a neighborhood at that point, when you finally get to that point in the commercial space. But in the beginning, man, it's basically finding what kind of projects you want to go after. Is it apartment complexes? Is it industrial? Is it warehouses, retail? Kind of find out what your crews and equipment kind of align with. What are you actually good at doing? What's that customer look like? And then you got to find out who are the decision makers at those companies. Who do you need to get in front of? And it takes it takes cold calling. It takes relentless cold calling. It takes stopping by their businesses and taking them a dozen donuts and leaving them with Susie at the front desk. So maybe she might give you their phone number or their email address, or figuring out how to actually get a hold of these people. But it's diligence, which is a constant, steady effort to achieve one's goals. Um, it's diligence from a cold calling, prospecting mentality, to kind of start getting some of that traction, getting into that commercial space. Now, if you're doing a good enough job, and this is where, and in the beginning we weren't doing this either. We were kind of just still in the yellow pages, and doing some Facebook ads, and we redesigned the website. So like we kind of had a presence, but we weren't doing anything from a technology or digital standpoint to interrupt these people's days. We were trying to interrupt their days with a phone call, or by
Sure.
stopping by, or
Sure.
sending them an email, which very little success rate. I mean, you've got to whatever the stats are, it tells you how many times you've got to cold call someone to actually get a 30-second conversation with them is ridiculous. So in the beginning, it was a grind, and I think you can do that a little easier now if you get some targeted Facebook kind of ads going. You can definitely start reaching some of these folks a little easier. But
Sure.
but yeah, man, it's a big transition. It takes a lot of energy and effort, and it's gonna be uncomfortable. It's gonna be frustrating. You're gonna question whether or not you're ever gonna get that breakthrough. But you just got to keep pounding at it, and then eventually you'll land a job. You'll land a six-figure job, and you'll land. I mean, back in 20, this last season, we probably did, God, I don't know, 20 or more six-figure jobs. And back in 2016, 17, when those first started happening, we'd be happy to do one or two a season.
Sure.
And then one or two turns into 5, turns into 10, turns into 20. So it's just a grind, man. It's you've got to figure out how to get in front of these folks, and then you've got to be able. And again, we talked about this kind of last episode. You better you better know what you're doing. You better know how to deliver on the promises you're making as a commercial contractor, because we didn't do that very well with our very first one. Luckily, we still executed the job and it turned out okay. I mean, although we didn't make any money, and we lost an entire week of production that we could have been doing something else that we could have made money at. You can't do too many of those. You're gonna find yourself in the red very, very quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the approach.
Sure. And as a marketer, it's been the biggest head scratcher, I guess. Well, it's just curiosity about how to get in front of those potential commercial clients, because it's almost like no matter what you do digitally, besides, you might get some brand recognition, but until you take those personal steps or actually try to reach out with your voice and talk to, the receptionist or bring them donuts or whatever, it seems like it's kind of tough to get in. Now, if you can slowly grow, and I'm assuming that most companies, when they take on their first six-figure job, don't nail it. But as you kind of grow and you get that reputation, and we've talked before about trying to, potentially target project managers, facilities managers, and then also people that run groups of properties. But even at that, you have to get so specific that blanketing with ads is going to be so much less effective than in residential market, because the residential market, they click if they're interested, and you at least already have a click. If, a general rule in branding and marketing is 7 touch points, someone seeing your logo or brand 7 times before they remember it and can start to associate it with what you do. It's going to be, not only for this podcast, but for me personally and my goals for ADC, it's going to be extremely exciting this year as you're bringing on more sales staff, as you're growing, and as we have the data we can build on from last year and go into this year. It's going to be extremely exciting to see how sales and marketing work together. And it's also, for the first time kind of with us, important, and we're seeing why that is a topic out there. Like, how does your sales and marketing communicate? Because in the past year, if your sales team had said, we need a logo, we need a custom thing for this, maybe let's promote this to this area of town, that's been as far as it goes. But when you talk about getting high dollar jobs or maintaining a certain type of client base, we have to dig into specific roles in people's day and see how we meet them. And I can't do it digitally, and chances are they're not going to look as professional and as polished as they can to get the job if I can't help them when it's their turn. So I know that is going to be a really big thing for us this season. And I'm excited for this meeting that hopefully we can schedule next week, and we can start to bring in all the notes we made during the chaos of the season last year, and really see if we can't get some not only bigger business but better business.
Yeah, that's it. It's finding work, not just finding work, but find customers that align with your vision, your values, things you're good at, things that are, again, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in my career, and I can't emphasize this enough, especially when you're just starting out or you're trying to grow, you've got a revenue goal. I almost put those revenue goals, just burn them, just light them on fire, just put them, like, you need to be worrying about gross margin goals and net. And again, this is something we really need to dive into when we're talking, like Scott was talking about, cost and understanding cost and margin. You want to be after gross margin goals. You want to be after net profit goals, because you can do $10 million and you net $500,000, and you can do $5 million and net $1.5 million. When one of my mentors down in Atlanta said, who at that time, he had a $8 to $12 million company, and this stuck with me. He said, I run an $8 to $12 million revenue business, and I net more money than my friend who runs a $50 million paving operation with 100 employees and layers and layers of management, and paperwork and headaches and all that comes with operating a business that big. that's why I don't have any aspirations of growing our business much bigger than about where we're at now from a revenue standpoint.
Sure.
I want to figure out how to improve our efficiencies, our logistics, our, and finding jobs where we can maximize gross profit, gross margin, and we're dropping as much money down as we can. Not just from a profitability standpoint, but so we can reinvest in our team. We can reinvest in training. We can reinvest in the best of equipment that's out there to make our guys' lives easier. So we
Sure.
can give bigger bonuses, all that stuff. I mean, you can start running a really fun operation
Hmm.
when you can start accumulating large amounts of cash. I
Sure.
mean, it's
Yeah.
just, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. The
This is
options that
probably,
come.
right. This is probably your first year where you've really gotten those options. I know in
Mhm.
years past, you've done well, but I know you were trying to do some things as far as the hiring side that you were thinking maybe done in the next, 1 to 5 years, and then it happened the first off season where, you executed close to, damn near close to your goals. Um,
Yep.
so I think, and also you had talked about growing a company that has 100 employees. I think it's also fascinating that a lot of studies are coming out that when you have a middle manager or even two, how much time and process gets wasted. But when we come around to gross profit and gross margin, I think that should probably be an episode on itself.
Yep.
It doesn't it we could probably even break down the aspects of that into separate episodes, but I imagine as important and as many times as has come up already that it's going to be one of the episodes in the near future. So I'm definitely
Yep.
excited
Yep.
about that.
Did I get to the point I was trying to make with all that, with what I just said? I think that,
You
and I
had
don't
three
know that
really
I
good
ever
ones.
circled, huh?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't know that I ever circled back to it, but it was one of the biggest things I've learned that has propelled my career in our company is learning to tell customers no, telling people they're
Sure.
not a good fit
Hmm.
for your business. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay to turn, and it may be a job that you'll get. Like, I'm going to
Hmm.
win this $10,000 job. Well, who cares? Because you're only going to make 10% on it. Go find other work that fits your model, that fits your team, that fits who you are.
Right.
Uh, don't and it's tough. I mean, it's tough to tell people no, especially if you're an empath like myself. You want to help everybody out, but
Yep.
that's not helping your company, your team out by saving the world, one pothole at a time.
Sure. Yeah, I had to think of it as patience. And I really didn't like that because I associate patience with being slow or lazy. But, if it's going to cause, I mean, it goes back to that story you just told about your first job. Sometimes you have to do it to get in the arena, but to
Yeah,
continue to maintain it, it's kind of
you
an
do.
insanity point.
Yeah, I mean, and that job. I mean, I'm glad we did that job because I have a happy. I mean, whether we made money or not, we've got a happy customer. We've got proof that we are capable of doing a job. I mean,
Sure.
sometimes you've got to buy certain kind of jobs or buy certain kind, like sometimes you've got to be low bid, even though you don't want to, or that doesn't align with your morals, standards, and beliefs as a company to get into certain customers. And once you start showing them your true value, then you start bumping that price back up a little bit. So I mean, sometimes you've got to buy your way into situations, and that's okay because that's part of doing business. You're never going to get an opportunity with some customers um, if by getting into that customer for the first time is by low bid. I mean,
Sure.
sometimes you have to do some things like that.
Sure.
So just don't do it very often. Just
Yeah.
and make sure they're going to be a good long term customer, right? Like,
Sure. There's so much that goes
um,
into it. I mean,
oh
like
yeah,
even
I mean,
keeping
it's
your crew sane and showing up and together to, the new things that come along with the office side of the operations and the step up and everything and the new equipment you didn't know you needed.
I mean, trust me, the stress and the pressure that comes not only from the business owner, but from that business owner down to his foreman, down to his crew. When you know there's not much margin involved with the job, it's not very pleasant. I mean, and for there's people operate that like that all the time. They're operating on a 10, 15, 20% gross profit on their work all the time. Like, no, that sounds miserable.
Yeah.
And people chase that low bid mentality all the time, and it's super stressful
Yeah.
on
Work
the
for
whole
work's sake.
system, on the whole company.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, and speaking of stress, that's, I always take down notes when I think there might be an episode that might work for us. And you had talked about encourage people to check out a therapist if they need it, especially if you're a business owner. But that'd be an interesting topic, even if it's just tips throughout the day or tips to maintain, throughout the year or something like that. I'd really be interested to dive into, especially tailored
It's a
for
great
people
book
in
if
high stress jobs.
anybody's looking for a good read and has doubt or question about the world of therapy.
Cool.
That's
The
good.
Gift of Therapy by Irvin D. Yalom, MD, Yalom. The Gift of Therapy. Yeah, books is another one. I almost feel like that could be like a holiday episode, or I don't know, but there's quite a few books that Audible has been an amazing discovery for me over the last 4 years, but I can save that for another time. And we're going to save the listener a little bit of time here from me rambling on while you give a bunch of advice, but we're going to go ahead and start to wrap up our market and marketing talk today. As soon as you can fit it in, I would say go ahead and conduct and find market research. I'm just kind of wrapping up a few points here, as I forgot to indicate in my notes. But just a final few notes. As soon as you can fit it in, whether it be formally or informally, we're sitting here talking about knowing your market and your target audience. Try to spend some time when you can possibly get some free time. The first free time that you get, find out, if you're not already thinking about it, where your company fits in your market, and try to understand, what price point and what type of customer might be ideal for you, so you can get that first job and get going. Another note is, if you're looking for more on social media right now, I know we kind of hinted on Facebook. A resource I use all the time, it's called Social Media Examiner. They have a great website and podcast. They have great information. And the good thing about the podcast is that when you see the podcast title, they're interviewing someone and that's what they cover. So it's not like, I think I'm going to hear this today. You can really find a topic and get some answers immediately. So that's the Social Media Examiner. And if you take nothing else from today, if you have not already, talking about marketing, claim your business on Google My Business and start thinking about how you might best solicit and continue to grow 5-star ratings on Google. It's just the way things have evolved is people will go to Google and type in home advisor or asphalt paving or anything related to asphalt paving. And the first thing they're going to see if you have your business claimed on Google My Business is, your business name, your contact information, your address, and your star rating. So make sure that you get into that. I know, Kevin, you all had made a conscious effort over the last 2 years to get that up and running. Do you personally think that, I guess this is a loaded question, but can you tell us a little bit about the results you think you've had from that?
From the Google reviews?
Yeah.
Oh, it's massive. Yep. Massive. You can feel it. I mean, and every time we're done with the job we're at, and I was trying to find one of our cards. We can share this on another episode when we can. I mean, again, you could do an entire episode on Google My Business, Google reviews, all that. But after we complete a job, we've got a card that basically gives them 10% off of their 1-year seal coat. Say it's a paving job. So here's a card. Hang on to this coupon. Basically, you get 10% off of your pavement maintenance, your seal coating project. On the back of that card is a QR code. They snap and gives them, takes them right to our Google review page. And even if they just click 5-star, that's good. I mean, that's good enough. I mean, we obviously encourage them to write something as well, but we want to make it simple for that customer. It's one thing to ask and tell, hey, can you please leave a Google review? We give them a coupon. Hang on to this, give it to us a year from now, whether it's a $20,000 seal coat or a $300 seal coat, we're going to give you 10% off. I don't care because I want that review.
Sure.
Take a picture of the QR code, within 7 seconds, your rating is going up. So
Sure. It's fun. It's interactive for them. They get to do something.
Yeah.
If they had a great experience, they want to. And plus with the card, if they decide to keep it, it's another touch point for branding. Every time they see it, they associate
Right.
you with that.
Put it on your fridge, whatever.
Yep. So a couple topics for down the line, just to keep you, the listener, interested for potential episodes, is how to market on a small budget and the things you could be doing anyways, how not to look like anyone else in your industry, market culture studies, which is absolutely fascinating to me. Again, basically it's taking marketing concepts and the culture of your company to kind of guide your plan. And as you can see, if you don't have a good experience for that customer, if you don't have a good culture, they're not going to want to leave you a review. So it's kind of a newer concept that basically really puts culture and marketing at the forefront of things, and then backing it all with operations. Can't wait to get into that. But then also kind of, as I mentioned earlier, the intersection of sales and marketing. So that's more on the marketing front. The next few episodes will be different. Next one, we're in Kevin's wheelhouse, which is culture. And I even get more excited about that because I got to witness it grow through ADC. And now that your staff has just gotten immensely better, your daily life is improved for everyone around. The outside world can see it. They have questions. So I'm really excited to jump into that for the next one. Then we'll start getting into specifics for after that. But let's wrap up this episode with our final segment, the thought that won't stop. And this is a reoccurring thought that just won't get out of your brain. So Kevin, what is your thought that won't stop for this episode?
Well, like I started this episode, mentioning that I'm on week, I don't know, 5, 6 of fighting COVID or, whatever, just not being well or being myself. It's just, man, it's tough as a business owner to take care of yourself. I mean, it is, especially if you're as hands-on and committed and all in, as I am. I mean, it's hard to take care of yourself. So I've been thinking about this a lot. I think it's because my wife's been kind of on me about it, and she's absolutely correct. It's like,
Sure.
you got to slow down for you got to slow down for at least a week or two here, man, and get yourself taken care of. So self-care is something that's really on the top of my priority list, especially now that we are going to be a little slower for a couple months. Because if I don't do it now, it's going to be March, and we're going to be right back at it, and I'm going to, it's not going to be good.
Yeah,
I'm not getting any young, I still feel like I'm 20 years old, but I'm not. I'm going to be 41 in 3 weeks, and it's like, you got to take care of yourself, dumbass.
Yeah.
So
it's not going to get any easier next year if you don't either.
No.
Yeah, and even to remind yourself what it feels like to do that. I am all about that. I've had stress issues my entire life, which contributes to, I'd like to think, with my being thorough in a lot of things that I do. But as you're saying, when you own a business, it really doesn't turn off. And as soon as it does turn off, you find something that might relate or possibly help your business, and you feel like you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't go ahead and think about it. I wasn't even planning on this, but it's a perfect segue into my thought that won't stop. And you actually mentioned this earlier, and it's a quote that I heard earlier this week, and it's "No is a complete sentence" by Anne Lamott. And I just thought that was so good, because there's so many times in life, like, I'll say no. My gut instinct will tell me that, there's no, but for some reason I want to keep thinking about it just in case it could be a potential opportunity. And when you start taking on employees and things like that, it's not just about what's best for my mental health and my schedule and my family. You want to be able to maintain and grow if you need to, as you said, figuring out how to grow that gross profit and gross margin so that you can afford yourself more luxuries in the future. It doesn't do any good if you're, shortening your life in the process through so much stress. So I kind of found that "no" is a complete sentence to be a slightly clever truth.
I love that, and I'm gonna hang on to that too, because being the empath I am, even though no is a complete sentence, I always feel like there has to be an explanation for my no.
Sure.
no because. Like, no, just it can just be no.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
don't need to explain myself. Like,
It's easy
right?
enough. Yeah, I mean, it's easy enough, and you know, it's you want to, of course, you want to justify yourself, and especially when you're working with people and people working for you, and you say
And you
no, and they
care,
give you a look.
care, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You care, and you know that kind of also goes with taking on too many jobs. You know, that's where you had originally brought it up. So
Yeah.
I hope that
Love it.
yeah, I think that'll give me a little bit of solace going forward, and hopefully it will for you and the listener too. Glad you like it. So in closing, one more time, this is the format for this podcast is one where each episode will dive into a specific topic covering marketing, culture, or operations. We have many sources where we acquire questions from you, the listener, including a yearly paving industry report, which is coming up very soon. So once again, hop on Instagram, see what's up with us there. You can also find us on Facebook. But the purpose of the paving industry report is to ask paving and seal coat industry professionals about their common problems, tactics, and strategies so that we might find common solutions and share them with the industry in a yearly report. Our website will most likely host all of the questions and answers along with the resources to discuss ways industry members might better their practices and processes. We will follow up with the results that we get and present them to you, the listener, in a report. Kevin will also be hosting a series of YouTube interviews with some of the paving and seal coating industry's top minds to discuss some of those areas and the results from that report. This is happening very soon. So again, we are at _Pave It Forward on Instagram, and you can also find us on YouTube at Pave It Forward. And we will also be releasing podcasts on Wednesdays or Thursdays. And we are now on all major platforms, including YouTube. So Kevin, any last thoughts for the people before we wrap up this podcast episode?
No, man. Just take care of yourself. If you're getting a little downtime here, and if it's your off season, man, rest up, take care of yourself, spend some time with your families, get rejuvenated, get in the gym, eat well, you know, get ready, get ready because 2022 is going to be explosive.
Let's go. I love that. I'm sure that's another episode coming. How to best take care of yourself when not at work. We got to cut ourselves off. Kevin. But this has been the Pave It Forward podcast, where we aim to help leaders in the paving industry who are looking to run more efficiently, meet their ideal customer, and improve the lives of those around them through meaningful work. Thanks for listening.
Boom. We did it.